Let me ask you something that most people have never considered. When you think about protecting your eyesight, what comes to mind? Maybe regular eye exams, maybe reading glasses, maybe limiting screen time. But how often do you think about what you eat in the hour before you go to sleep? For most people, the answer is never, because we've been taught that nighttime eating affects only a few things: our weight, our blood sugar, or perhaps the quality of our sleep. What almost nobody talks about is what happens inside the eye while you're asleep. And that may be one of the biggest missed opportunities in healthy aging. Tonight, while you're resting comfortably in bed, your eyes won't actually be resting at all. More specifically, your retina won't be resting. The retina is the thin, light-sensitive layer at the back of the eye responsible for turning light into the images you see every day. Every face you recognize, every book you read, every road sign you notice while driving. Every one of those experiences depends on the retina doing its job. And during the night, something remarkable happens. While your eyes are closed and no longer processing incoming light, the body shifts its attention toward maintenance and repair. Cells damaged during the day begin a recovery process. Waste products are cleared away. Protective systems become active. It's one of the most important biological maintenance windows in the entire visual system. The problem is that this repair process doesn't happen automatically at full strength. It depends on having the right materials available. Just as a construction crew can't repair a building without supplies, your body can't fully support retinal repair without specific nutrients. When those nutrients are missing, the repair process becomes less efficient. Not for one night, for thousands of nights. And that's where many age-related vision problems begin. Slowly, quietly, without obvious symptoms. Most people assume declining vision is simply a normal consequence of getting older. Age certainly plays a role, but age is not the entire story. In fact, research over the last decade has increasingly shown that nutrition influences how quickly certain eye conditions progress. One of the most important examples is age-related macular degeneration. The macula is the central portion of the retina responsible for sharp, detailed vision. It's what allows you to read a menu, recognize a loved one's face, or see fine details clearly. When the macula begins to deteriorate, those abilities gradually become more difficult, and the numbers are significant. Millions of older adults are currently living with some degree of macular degeneration. What makes this condition especially challenging is that it often develops silently. In the early stages, many people notice absolutely nothing. No pain, no dramatic warning signs, no sudden loss of vision. The damage accumulates quietly for years before becoming obvious. That's why prevention matters so much. Because once symptoms appear, the process has often been underway for a very long time. The encouraging news is that the retina isn't defenseless. It has its own protective systems. And many of those systems depend directly on nutrients obtained through food. Not expensive procedures, not complicated treatments. Food. Which brings us to an important question. If the retina performs its most important repair work while you sleep, are there specific foods that can help support that process? The answer is yes. And some of the most effective options may already be sitting in your kitchen. In the next part, I'll explain exactly what the retina needs during its nightly repair cycle, why antioxidants play such a critical role, and why the timing of what you eat before bed matters far more than most people realize. Before we talk about specific fruits, you need to understand what your retina is actually fighting against every single day. Most people assume vision loss happens because the eyes simply wear out with age. But that's not how it works. The retina is one of the most metabolically active tissues in the entire body. It consumes enormous amounts of energy every hour you're awake. And because it's constantly exposed to light, it faces a challenge that few other tissues experience to the same degree. That challenge is called oxidative stress. Now, don't let the term sound more complicated than it is. Every time light enters your eyes, tiny, unstable molecules known as free radicals are produced. In small amounts, that's normal. Your body is designed to handle them. The problem begins when those free radicals accumulate faster than the body can neutralize them. Over time, they begin damaging the very cells responsible for vision. It's a little like rust forming on metal. The damage doesn't appear overnight. It builds gradually, day after day, year after year, and because the retina works so hard, it's especially vulnerable to this kind of wear. Fortunately, nature built a protective system directly into the eye. At the center of the retina sits a small but incredibly important structure called the macula. This is the area responsible for your sharpest vision, reading, recognizing faces, seeing fine details. The macula depends heavily on two specialized compounds that act like a protective shield. Their names are lutein and zeaxanthin. Most people have never heard of them, yet they may be among the most important nutrients for long-term eye health. These compounds concentrate almost exclusively in the retina, particularly within the macula. Their job is remarkably simple. They absorb harmful light energy and help neutralize free radicals before damage occurs. Think of them as the retina's built-in protective filter. Without adequate levels, the eye becomes more vulnerable to oxidative stress. And here's the critical detail. Your body cannot manufacture lutein or zeaxanthin on its own. You must obtain them through food. Every molecule present in your retina arrived there through your diet. That alone should tell you how important nutrition is to eye health. This isn't just theory. One of the most important studies ever conducted on age-related macular degeneration was the AREDS2 trial sponsored by the National Eye Institute. Researchers followed thousands of adults who were already showing signs of macular degeneration. What they discovered was remarkable. Participants receiving targeted nutritional support that included lutein and zeaxanthin experienced a significantly lower risk of progressing to advanced stages of the disease. The reduction wasn't trivial, it was clinically meaningful, a finding strong enough to change how many eye specialists think about nutritional support for aging eyes. But there is another detail that often gets overlooked. Many people immediately think supplements are the only answer. Supplements certainly have a place. However, whole foods provide a much broader collection of protective compounds, not just one nutrient, entire networks of nutrients working together. Vitamins, polyphenols, antioxidants, plant compounds, researchers are still discovering, and when these foods are consumed consistently, they help create the environment your retina needs for repair. That's where timing becomes important. During the day, your retina is busy processing light. At night, repair becomes the priority. The body shifts resources toward restoration. That means the nutrients available in your system during the evening can directly influence what happens during those overnight hours. Which brings us to the first fruit on our list. A fruit whose deep color reveals exactly why researchers have become so interested in it. And the science behind it is stronger than most people realize. The first fruit is blueberries. At first glance, they don't look particularly impressive. They're small. They're common. You can find them in almost any grocery store. Yet when researchers study foods associated with healthy aging, blueberries appear again and again. And eye health is one of the reasons why. A large prospective study published through the Harvard Women's Health Study followed middle-aged and older women over time and found something worth paying attention to. Women who regularly consumed blueberries showed a significantly lower risk of developing age-related macular degeneration compared with women who rarely ate them. That finding raised an obvious question. Why? What is it about blueberries that makes them different? The answer lies in the pigments responsible for their deep blue color. These compounds are known as anthocyanins, and inside the retina, they perform several important functions simultaneously. The first involves oxidative stress. Remember the free radicals we discussed earlier? The unstable molecules generated through daily light exposure? Anthocyanins help neutralize those molecules before they can damage retinal tissue. In simple terms, they help reduce the daily wear and tear occurring inside the eye. But that's only part of the story. Your retina depends on a network of tiny blood vessels for oxygen and nutrients. These vessels are incredibly delicate. When inflammation and oxidative stress begin affecting them, the retina receives less support. Over time, that can contribute to the gradual decline associated with many age-related eye conditions. Anthocyanins appear to help protect those vessels as well. Researchers studying retinal tissue have found evidence that blueberry compounds help support the structural integrity of retinal blood vessels while also protecting retinal cells from oxidative injury. That combination is important because healthy vision depends on both healthy cells and healthy circulation. You cannot have one without the other. What makes blueberries particularly attractive is how easy they are to include in an evening routine. No preparation, no cooking, no complicated instructions. A small handful is enough. Fresh blueberries work well. Frozen blueberries work just as well. In fact, many nutrition researchers point out that frozen berries often retain their beneficial compounds extremely well. One common mistake is assuming more is always better. It isn't. The research supporting blueberries focuses on consistent intake over time. A modest serving eaten regularly is likely far more valuable than an enormous serving consumed once every few weeks. Consistency is where the benefit appears, not excess. And there is another detail worth mentioning. Many people take a healthy food and accidentally turn it into something less healthy. A bowl of blueberries covered in sweetened syrup, sugary toppings, or heavily sweetened yogurt introduces the very thing the retina is trying to avoid. Excess sugar increases inflammation and oxidative stress. In other words, it works against the protective effects you're trying to achieve. If you want to pair blueberries with something, plain full-fat yogurt is often a better choice. It adds healthy fat without adding unnecessary sugar. And that fat may actually help the body absorb certain beneficial compounds more effectively. Blueberries help protect the retina from the daily damage caused by light exposure. But the next fruit works differently. Instead of focusing primarily on protection, it supports one of the most overlooked parts of eye health after 60, the quality of your sleep. And what happens inside the retina while you're asleep may surprise you. The second fruit is tart cherries. Most people know tart cherries for one reason: sleep. If you've ever looked into natural ways to improve sleep quality, you've probably seen tart cherries mentioned. But what very few people realize is that the connection between tart cherries and healthy vision may be just as interesting as their connection to sleep. The reason begins with a hormone called melatonin. Melatonin is usually described as the body's sleep hormone. As darkness arrives in the evening, melatonin production increases and helps prepare the body for rest. That explanation is correct, but it's incomplete. Because melatonin doesn't work only in the brain. The retina itself contains melatonin receptors. And inside the eye, melatonin serves another important purpose. It acts as a powerful antioxidant. As we age, natural melatonin production gradually declines. Many people notice this through changes in sleep. They fall asleep later, wake up more frequently, or simply don't feel as refreshed in the morning. What they don't realize is that lower melatonin levels may also reduce some of the antioxidant protection available to retinal tissue during the overnight repair window. That's where tart cherries become interesting. Among natural foods, tart cherries are one of the richest sources of melatonin available. Consuming them in the evening provides the body with compounds that align naturally with the timing of the retina's repair cycle. And timing matters, because retinal repair doesn't happen randomly throughout the day. It becomes most active during the hours when the body is asleep and recovery systems are operating at full strength. In other words, tart cherries support the exact biological environment that healthy retinal maintenance depends on. But melatonin is only half the story. Tart cherries also contain anthocyanins, the same family of compounds that make blueberries so valuable. However, the anthocyanins in tart cherries appear to offer an additional advantage. They have been studied extensively for their anti-inflammatory effects. Why does that matter? Because inflammation is one of the major drivers of age-related degeneration throughout the body, including within the eye. Over time, chronic low-grade inflammation can affect the tiny blood vessels responsible for delivering oxygen and nutrients to retinal tissue. When those vessels become less efficient, retinal cells receive less support. And when retinal cells receive less support, the risk of deterioration increases. Tart cherries help address this challenge from two directions at once. First, by supporting melatonin availability during the overnight repair period. Second, by helping reduce inflammatory stress on the circulation that feeds the retina. That combination is unusually powerful. Protection and repair, working together. For practical purposes, the amount needed is surprisingly modest. A small serving of tart cherries in the evening is enough. Fresh cherries work well. Frozen cherries work well. Even a small amount of unsweetened tart cherry juice can be useful. The important word is unsweetened, because adding large amounts of sugar defeats part of the purpose. The goal is to support repair, not create additional metabolic stress. Many people find that consuming tart cherries about 30 to 60 minutes before bed fits naturally into their evening routine. It's simple, it's affordable, and it works with the body's existing biological rhythm rather than against it. Blueberries help defend the retina against daily oxidative damage. Tart cherries help support the overnight repair environment. But the next fruit may be the most surprising of all, because it influences vision indirectly through something most people never connect to eye health: the depth and quality of their sleep. The third fruit is kiwi, and of all the fruits we've discussed, this may be the one that surprises people the most. Ask someone why kiwi is healthy, and they'll usually give the same answer: vitamin C, and they're right. Kiwi is one of the richest natural sources of vitamin C available. In fact, gram for gram, it often contains more vitamin C than oranges. But when it comes to eye health after 60, vitamin C is only part of the story. What makes kiwi unique is the way it influences sleep. Researchers have studied adults who consumed kiwi before bedtime and found improvements in several important aspects of sleep quality. People fell asleep faster, they slept more efficiently, and they spent more time in restorative sleep. At first, that may sound unrelated to vision, but it's actually one of the most important connections in this entire discussion. Remember what we've talked about from the beginning. The retina performs much of its repair work at night, not while you're reading, not while you're driving, not while you're watching television, while you're asleep. And the quality of that repair process depends heavily on the quality of your sleep. Poor sleep doesn't just leave you tired the next day, it shortens the amount of time the body spends in its deepest restorative phases. When that happens repeatedly over months and years, the retina loses valuable repair time. The result isn't immediate vision loss. The result is something much quieter: a gradual accumulation of oxidative stress, a gradual decline in the eye's ability to recover from daily wear and tear. That's why kiwi is so interesting. It appears to support the repair process from two directions at once. First, kiwi contains compounds that help support the body's natural production of melatonin. This contributes to deeper and more restorative sleep. Second, kiwi delivers a substantial amount of vitamin C directly into the system, and vitamin C plays a critical role inside the eye. It is present in high concentrations within the fluid that fills the eye and helps protect delicate tissues from oxidative damage. Vitamin C also supports the health of the tiny blood vessels that nourish the retina. Healthy circulation means healthy retinal support. And healthy retinal support means better long-term protection against age-related decline. That combination makes kiwi uniquely valuable. It supports the sleep channel, and it supports the antioxidant channel at the same time. For most people, 1 or 2 kiwis about 45 minutes to an hour before bed is a practical approach. Some people eat the skin because it contains additional nutrients and fiber. Others prefer only the flesh. Either approach works. The most important factor is consistency, and that brings us to a mistake many people make. They treat nutrition as an occasional event. They eat healthy for a few days, then forget about it for weeks. But the research on retinal protection doesn't work that way. The benefits appear when supportive foods are consumed consistently over time. A small serving every evening is more valuable than a large serving once in a while. Another mistake is waiting until vision problems appear. Unfortunately, age-related changes inside the retina often develop silently. Years can pass before noticeable symptoms emerge. By the time central vision becomes affected, the underlying process may have been active for a long time. That's why prevention matters. Not because something is wrong today, but because you want healthy vision tomorrow. So let's bring everything together. Blueberries help protect retinal cells and support the tiny blood vessels that keep them nourished. Tart cherries support melatonin availability and help create an environment where overnight repair can occur more effectively. Kiwi supports deeper sleep while delivering vitamin C and additional antioxidants directly to the eye's protective systems. Each fruit works differently, yet all three support the same goal: helping the retina defend itself against the daily damage that naturally accumulates with age. None require a prescription, none are expensive, and all are supported by a growing body of research. Your eyes work for you every moment you're awake. The evening is one of the few opportunities you have to provide them with the nutrients they need before beginning another day. The choices may seem small: a handful of blueberries, a serving of tart cherries, 1 or 2 kiwis before bed. But small choices repeated consistently often create the biggest differences over time. And when it comes to protecting your vision after 60, that's exactly where the real advantage begins.